Hello and welcome back, listeners, to another empowering episode of the Mindful Living podcast with your host, Sana. Today, we are diving into the world of self talk, becoming your own best friend, and how to choose the kind of life experience you truly want. And joining us is the incredible Harriet Bratt, an international speaker, trainer, warrior, and firewalk guide. Yes, listeners, firewalk guide. Harriet is here to teach us how to step into our power, own our stories, and make an unforgettable impact while having a ton of fun. She's trained hundreds of speakers, delivered keynotes to thousands, and built a thriving community of fearless, fiery entrepreneurs. But today on the Mindful Living, Harriet is flipping the script to talk about the most important stage we all step onto every day, our inner world. So, buckle up for an inspiring conversation about self talk, mindset, and unleashing the inner warrior within us all. So, Harriet, welcome to the show, and it's an absolute honor to have you with us today.
Thank you so much, Zana. It's an absolute pleasure to be here with you and your listeners. And wow, I really appreciate that introduction. I think it's one of the best I've had. And I almost want to invite you to come and intro me at other events.
Well, well, that's generous. That's generous, Harriet. Okay, so to begin with, you have been on some pretty big stages, but today we are talking about the stage inside our own minds. How did you begin your journey of transforming your self-talk?
Beautiful questions. And that actually in particular was one of the things that I loved about your introduction. And I'm going to steal that. I'll credit you, but I'm going to use that. I thought that was brilliant. The stage that we're on every day. And
Yeah.
as you say, yes, I've both spoken on huge stages and I've also trained other speakers to speak on big stages. But as you've identified, and for me, first and foremost, before any stage, before any external communication whatsoever, is our internal talk. Like everybody listening right now, say hello. Not out loud, but say hello. That voice. Like that voice is talking to us all day long. If you look at the research that Joe Dispenza shares and has so much evidence for, we have 35,000 decisions that we're making every day. And of course, those are influenced by even more thoughts that we are having every single day. So are your
Mm.
thoughts, i.e., is your self-talk serving you? So that's kind of in essence what we're looking at here. And for me, the journey really began about 7 years ago. I
Mm.
was a care home manager, so very different world to the one I'm in now. We certainly didn't have the residence fire walking down the corridors, but it was very much I had 70 staff. We had 44 residents. It was all about dementia. And I think probably like a lot of people listening, maybe even yourself, I got to a stage where I was deeply unhappy. I felt unfulfilled. I didn't feel valued. Everything I was doing at work felt like I was doing it for tick box paperwork rather than real person-centered care. I didn't like or not didn't like, I found it very challenging to work with my upline. I disagreed with a lot of their approach. So I was just in a really deeply unhappy place. And it was actually through network marketing. So someone approached, no. I saw an advert in a local newspaper about, would you like more flexibility? Would you like more, um, what was it? Flexibility, productivity, and would you like to be your own boss? And of course, at that moment in my life, I was really naive and pretty desperate. So I just said, yes, yes, yes. And that led me to finding the world of personal development. So that's really when this whole concept of self-talk, the way I was speaking to myself, the way I was allowing old stories to run, etc., etc. That was kind of my first moment of awareness to how powerful that inner talk is and how it can both support us to heal, to lovingly accept where we are, but also to help us create our future results. So that's kind of a little insight of how I got into it and my shift into this personal development world.
Beautiful, beautiful. What a journey, Harriet. And I believe with uh, almost all of us, in this journey of our own life, or a kind of the movie. of our own, we encounter a conundrum, a situation where we always think that what exactly is our purpose, what kind of or a sense of fulfillment we encounter. So I think it's your journey is very much relatable, resonating with all of our listeners. And I'm very sure in our discussion today we'll have a lot of takeaways from your journey. So moving on, becoming your own best friend, it sounds amazing, but for me, it's easier said than done, and that applies to me as well. I've always wondered, how can I be my own best friend when I don't have any friends of my own? What's your advice for someone struggling to be kind, compassionate to themselves?
Such a beautiful, refreshing question. And I think something that needs to be spoken about more and have more awareness raised. So thank you for bringing this and for your platform and your podcast that you provide. It's amazing. I first of all just want to lean into what you said, and for all of your listeners, for everybody, like, in your intro, you said that I support people to unleash their warrior within. I believe every single one of us is a warrior. Every one of us is infinitely magical, amazing, and has incredible potential, whether or not we realize that. And a lot of people don't. A lot of people don't realize how incredible their potential is. And part of that is connecting with yourself. It is becoming your best friend. And I loved your honesty and vulnerability in that moment to kind of share, like, well, how do I do this when I don't even have my own friends? Right. And I think, don't get me wrong, tribe is important. Having beautiful people around you can make a massive difference. But there's some people that have friends that don't serve them, and you're probably better off without them. And again, that could be a podcast in itself. But it's being really aware of who you're spending time with. And bringing it back to yourself, you are the common denominator in your life, right? And there's probably lots of people listening, but I'm speaking to each individual separately. And of course, yourself, Sana, on this wonderful conversation. You are human. And you are the only person that is with you in every single moment of every single day, no matter whether it's to do with your business, your finances, your work, your family, your relationships, your social life, whatever it might be. You are the only person that is with you in every moment of every day. And if we couple that with what I was speaking about earlier and how important your self-talk is, are you speaking, like I used to speak to myself in a terrible way. I wouldn't say things I used to say to myself to my worst enemies. I was really nasty to myself. And I think as human beings, we can do that. We fall into this trap of beating ourselves up and punishing ourselves and being really unkind. And if a best friend came to us and shared the exact same situation that we were going through, we'd probably turn to them and say words of support, words of encouragement, words of kindness. So why don't we give ourselves that grace? So that's where this kind of belief theory idea comes from. But again, it's not something that happens overnight, because as much as we're warriors, we're human, right? We've had these stories, we've had these behavioral patterns for a long time. And I believe that the idea of change, the inspiration for transformation happens in a moment. But the actual shift, the embodiment, the integration takes time. So you're absolutely right. It is much easier said than done. Become your own best friend. I said it very quickly with a smile on myself in 3 words. However, it's taken me years to really become my own best friend. And even now, with bringing awareness to the way I speak to myself, and that's all I ask you, and if you feel it will benefit and all of your listeners to do, is just start listening to how you're speaking to yourself. And it doesn't mean don't be honest. It doesn't mean false positivity. It doesn't mean naive incantations. It means speaking to yourself as you would your best friend, being honest, being real, but being loving and being kind. And over time, when you bring that awareness, when you stop yourself, catch yourself insulting or being mean to yourself, stop, pause, and change that story over time. Now, my more dominant story is absolutely being a best friend. And I still, of course, have my moments, but generally speaking, I've created that connection and relationship within myself. And everybody can if you are willing to give it time. I know that was a long answer, so thank you for the space there.
No, that's really, really inspiring. Really inspiring. Um, so Harriet, on the flip side, some would say positive self-talk can feel forced or fake at first, almost, like lying to yourself. Even let's say we are in a very, very serious, crisis or bad situation, but we don't want to accept what's going on around us, how it's going to affect us. And we are kind of, in that optimism. It's going to get all right. It's going to get all sorted out. What's your take on this perspective?
I think there's a big balance. And again, like I know I've said it a few times, but I do a lot of podcasts, a lot of different panels at events, and I'm really enjoying not just the questions, but the way you're bringing these questions. And I can see how much you want to serve and bring value to your listeners, because you're kind of not just asking the general questions, you're digging in deeper to how people feel. So amazing. I completely agree. And I think there's a balance. First of all, if it doesn't feel good and it feels like you're lying to yourself, don't do it. Do not do it. It's not going to serve you. No matter what your beliefs are, whether you lean more to the spiritual or you lean more to the scientific, both roots come back to the fact that everything is energy, right? Whether you talk about vibration or you talk about frequency, everything is energy. So everything is about feeling. So it is thought and feeling. So let's take one of the most generic out there, but this can be with anything. Money. There's all these incantations saying, I am a millionaire, I'm going to be a millionaire, I am a millionaire, etc. But if you're like scrambling for coins down the back of your couch, it's not going to resonate. It's not going to feel good. Your entire subconscious mind is going to go, you're lying to me. No. Now, here's the key. It doesn't mean that one day you cannot be a millionaire. In another context, it doesn't mean you won't be super confident. It doesn't mean you won't be an amazing speaker. It doesn't mean that you won't be happy, healthy, and well, or any of the incantations that you're using. It doesn't mean that they cannot be true. What it means is you need to provide a bridge. Please take that down, everybody. Provide a bridge. What do I mean by that? Adjust your self-talk so it does feel good. For example, with the millionaire, again, it doesn't mean that in the future you won't be, but right now, if that is so far beyond your current experience, just change the language a little bit. I'm getting better with my money. I'm improving my finances. I earn a couple hundred extra a month. I earn a couple thousand extra a month. I'm like whatever the bridge for you is, say something that still encourages change, that is still supporting you in an empowering way, but isn't just a bold lie to yourself that doesn't feel good. And I'll just wrap this up finally with, you touched on the end there about saying, like, what happens if someone's going through a challenge, through a difficult time. Don't lie to yourself and just say like, oh, it's going to be okay, it's going to be okay. Well, what I would encourage, and everyone just take a deep breath for a moment with me here now on this podcast. Take a deep breath. The ultimate truth is, inevitably it will be okay. But there's a part of that truth that right now it's not. And that's okay. Like, it's okay to not be okay. I'm sure many of you have heard that saying. But as human beings, as I referred to earlier, we're going to, like, it's not a what if, we are going to experience challenge. We're going to experience fear, self-doubt, anxiety, nerves, and really difficult times. So I don't believe in false positivity. Like, if you're really feeling down, I don't know if I'm allowed to swear on this, but if you're really feeling like, then, don't lie and be like, everything's okay, everything's wonderful, I'm fine, because clearly no. But what can you do in that moment? Like, is there something I can do that helps this? Actually, no, there isn't right now. Like, if there is, do that. But if there isn't anything that you're able to do right now, then just do something different that supports yourself feeling better. Right? So pause that. I know this is painful. This is hurting. I'm not in a good place about this right now. And that is okay. Maybe you journal. Maybe you speak to a mentor, a coach, a friend. Maybe you pray. Maybe you do whatever serves you. But just don't put the focus into, this is terrible, this is awful. Just allow it to be what it is. And then support yourself in not necessarily coming back to like, oh, I'm amazing, but just coming back to calm. coming back to a space that serves you better to then go and face the challenge, right? If I'm in a heated moment with my husband, I'll pause, I'll take a breath. I understand that we're not done. I understand the conversation needs finished, but let's pause, let's calm, let's let our emotions settle, and let's come back and have a conversation, right? It's all in your approach, and your state of mind determines your approach. So I hope that helps a little bit and answers. There were kind of a few questions in there, so I hope it got them all.
Absolutely right. It's just like I am telling myself, I don't know the solution to this problem. I don't know the way out. But together, in my mind, I'm telling to myself, let's figure it out. Let's figure the solution out. Something will come.
Exactly.
Beautiful, beautiful, Harriet.
Exactly that. And you'll notice, like, even with you saying that, I love that as an example. Like, if we make statements like, this is terrible, this is awful, da da da, that's what it is. But if we ask ourselves question, when you ask the mind a question, I loved how you said that, like, I in my mind, like, we, that's so beautiful. Like, it's a different way of feeling. Now, when you say, what can I do about this? How can we figure this out? I don't know the answer, but what are some solutions? What's possible? When you ask questions, your mind answers in a different way. So thank you for saying that, because I think it gave a really powerful additional insight.
Thank you. Thank you, Harriet. Also, you talk about choosing your experience. What does that mean? And how can we start taking control um, of the situations, or not narrative, maybe in our own lives?
So I'm going to share a little story, and I'd love for everyone just to, yes, lean into what I'm sharing with this story, but then take this to every single moment of your life. It's that big. I went to dinner not too long ago with a group of friends, and we were discussing a holiday that we'd been on earlier in the year, from, of course, all of our own perspectives and our own experiences of that trip. We were all on the same holiday. We ate at the same restaurants. We were in the same company. Everything was the same for all of us, apart from, of course, our mindset, our self-talk, and the perspectives we took from that trip. So when we were discussing at this dinner and reminiscing, there was one particular lady at the table, and she's a good friend of mine, and I kind of challenged her in the moment and said, "What do you mean? I thought it was great." And she had a lot of complaints about various moments of the trip. Some of it, food wasn't good enough, service wasn't good enough. Apparently her husband had been a little bit of a pain in the butt. But that was her experience of it, right? That was her perspective and what she'd chosen to remember. For me, I remembered the really magical moments. I remembered the kids playing in the pool and splashing, and everyone, all the adults laughing around it. I remember us having beautiful barbecues, sitting around the table together, feasting and talking about our lives and great memories. I remember her husband being human and having a moment that she didn't need to take to heart. And again, it's between them. We're all human, right? But just a different perspective. Not right, not wrong, just different. So that was literally over a holiday, but we do this all the time. There are people that get stuck in traffic and they shout at the traffic lights, they honk their horn and they get really angry. There are people that get stuck in traffic and they think, oh, I'll put on a podcast. Wow, I noticed that tree before. It's stunning. Oh my goodness, it's nice to just be able to take a breath and have a moment to myself. I'm always so busy, right? Same situation, different perspective. So that's kind of what I mean. We don't always feel like it, but we always have a choice on the perspective we have in the moment. You go to a restaurant and your meal's not that great. Do you choose to focus on the fact that your meal's horrible, or do you choose to focus on the fact that you're in great company? Do you choose to focus on the fact that the painting next to you is exquisite? You know what I mean? Like, where are you choosing to put your focus during that moment?
Definitely. And I can understand this, much better, because in Bangalore we have some of the worst traffic jams here. And before, so this is, I think it will maybe put a vulnerable side from my end, but before even getting into podcasting, I used to, curse when I used to get stuck in my traffic jam. And I used to observe few people listening to podcasts, or maybe on radio in their cars. So after getting into podcasting, it kind of changed my perspective. That time which I actually lost there, getting angry, cursing myself, or maybe the traffic jam, the infrastructure, blah, blah, blah. That why didn't I put that time to listen to something which I could get value from? So I totally, totally agree with your point.
And I love, love, love. Like we've absolutely all done this, absolutely, and you've just shared it, and it's so powerful. And it's not about beating yourself up for what you did in the past. It's just that awareness for how you could use that time. And I want to say, like, we kind of briefly spoke about this before we hit the record button, but I was over in Bangalore. I was sharing with Sana before we started for some speaking events. And I tell you what, if you can stay calm in Bangalore traffic, you're in a good place. Like your mindset's good.
I agree. I agree. Great, great. Harriet, also as a firewalk guide and mindset coach, you help people face fear head on. How does fear play into self-talk, and how can we transform fear into fuel?
Fear can affect our self-talk in the very nature of what we say to ourselves when that feeling shows up.
Mm.
Now, just to go into that and make sure that we're all on the same page, fear is very natural. It's a feeling that every single one of us is going to have. And I apologize if everyone has headphones on, but there's your mini warning. We've only got two natural fears. One of them is a fear of heights. The other is a fear of loud noises. I hope I just woke anyone up that was perhaps drifting off in that moment, right? So there are natural fears, and there's some kind of deliberation around snakes and spiders. But my sort of answer to that, without getting into that debate as a podcast topic, is, well, how come not everybody is, right? Some people are petrified and some people have them as pets and pick them up and carry them and love them. So
Mm.
and even if that was right, let's make it three: snakes and spiders, loud noises, and a fear of heights. So everything else is a projection. It's a false narrative. It's a false story. And more often than not, it's come from experience. It's come from something that you've been through and the emotional reasoning that you've applied to it. So
Mm.
when that fear shows up, and obviously for me, the one that I speak about most often is a fear of public speaking. Now, first of all, let's remember that public speaking is the umbrella, right? The
Yeah.
reason why there's such a fear of public speaking is because there's so many fears within that: fear of judgment, fear of making a mistake, imposter syndrome, fear of success, etc., etc. The list goes on. So that presents as, I can't do this. I'm not good enough. I don't know what I'm saying. What if they challenge me? Right? That's fear. That's your self-talk breeding. That's fear breeding itself in your self-talk. But if you're able to feel that, and especially if you're someone that's just getting started in public speaking, but even for seasoned speakers, they still feel it. But if you're able to feel that feeling and go, it's okay that I'm nervous, it's because I care. I might not be perfect, but I can make a difference. And if we come out of our head and stop thinking about what might go wrong for us and into our heart and start thinking about what might go right, how we can provide value, how we can provide benefit, now you can't live in fear. You are in faith, because as amazing as our minds are, we cannot process both a positive and a negative at the same time. So if you're able to lean into faith and think, not false positivity, we touched on that earlier, not like it's amazing, everything's wonderful, but just, I'm feeling a little bit nervous, but that's okay. I'm speaking up because of this. So if we can just change that narrative when the fear, when the nerves, when the anxiety show up, then we support ourselves in not necessarily rocking it and being super confident, but in taking action in spite of fear, in being willing to try. And I think that's the key when fear shows up. You have two choices. Do you feel the fear and run? Or do you feel the fear, take a breath, and like with the fire, right? Feel the fear, take a breath, choose to walk the fire. Feel the fear, take a breath, choose to do whatever scary thing is in front of you that you know you want to do deep down, and it's only yourself and the fear that's stopping you.
Wow, that is really beautiful. Beautiful, Harriet. Oof. So before we wrap up, so it's a generic question, but of course, we have to learn from you. What's one small actionable step listeners can take today to start changing their inner dialogue for the better?
Absolutely. So I'm going to kind of lean on one I touched on earlier. but combine it in a really wonderful and easy way for your listeners to remember. Bath. Yep. Bath. BAF. Bath. Over the next 24 hours, 48 hours, and I encourage you to do it for longer, but just really be conscious over the next 24, 48 hours to just start listening to how you speak to yourself without judgment, but just openly observing how you are speaking to yourself. And if you start to notice stories that are running that do not serve you, if you notice that you're being unkind to yourself, if you notice you're saying things that you would not say to your loved ones, your best friends, your colleagues, etc., then bath, take a breath, bring awareness to your self-talk, and choose your focus. Choose what to focus on. And with the tips in the rest of this video, again, it's not about creating a false story. It's about creating a story that supports you in that moment.
Breath, awareness, and focus. Lovely, lovely, lovely. Very concise and to the point. Great. Harriet, thank you so much. You have absolutely lit a fire in all of us. And really, thank you so much for sharing your wisdom, your energy, and incredible insights in such a simple, relatable way. And that's the kind of, quality a good public speaker has.
A little bit of experience there.
Thank you, Harriet. So if our listeners, they wish to connect with you, follow your work, and get some more wisdom and some more insights from you, how they can do that?
Sure. First of all, I just want to say a massive thank you to you as well. As I mentioned, I do a lot of these, but I've really enjoyed this conversation. I think you're a fantastic host. And I think the podcast and platform that you are providing others is outstanding and immensely beneficial. So thank you to you. Thank you to all of you listeners out there. I trust, hope, pray that you take something, one golden nugget out of everything that we've shared today that can make a difference in your life. If you would love to share that, if you would love to come and ask any further questions, or as Sana said, connect more, Harriet Bratt on social media, I invite you to come and send me a message. And if it's okay with Sana, I'd also love to share just a free gift based on this conversation. I never do it on, thank you. I never do it on other podcasts, only if invited on summits, but it felt really relevant here. I actually have a visualization. It's a recorded visualization. So you just receive a link, but it is a 8-minute visualization that supports you in turning your story and your self-talk from a disempowering story into an empowering story. So if you would like that, then it's going to be in a link that Sana provides. But otherwise, just connect with me on social media and let's keep rising together.
Definitely. That's really, really so generous of you, Harriet. We'll have all the details mentioned in the show notes for our listeners to get easy access to Harriet's wonderful gift and follow her work on social media. And to all our listeners, I would like to say becoming your own best friend is the first step to creating the life you want. At least that's what I am taking away from this conversation. And take Harriet's advice to heart and start choosing your experience every single day, every single moment. As always, thank you to everyone for tuning into the Mindful Living. Don't forget to subscribe, share this episode with someone who needs to hear it, and leave us a review. Let us know how we are doing. Until next time, stay mindful, stay fierce, and keep choosing you. Thank you.